Chapter 2. Attic Keeper went to a small icebox and pulled out some bowls of olives, celery sticks, something wrapped up in wax paper that smelled spicy and savory, rounds of creamy and sharp cheeses, a selection of mustards, and from a bread cupboard she produced floury loaves of flaky, thick bread and farm-fresh butter. She placed them out on a picnic blanket, a Scottish plaid, in front of the fire, and motioned for the Muses to come and eat, and poured them all glasses of chocolate milk and cranberry juice. As the Muses grew stuffed and sleepy by the warm fire, and Storm curled up to sleep on the edge of the big work table, Attic Keeper went back to her sketching. She got stuck, though, staring at the blank page, an artist's block taking root. She spooned out some yogurt, made from goats from the plains of Patagonia. She put on a pair of sunglasses, with one lens missing. She drew for a while like that, and then put the lens on the other side of the glasses frames. Artie asked, lying stretched out on a pillow, so toasty and cozy and full that he no longer heard the vacuous outside. "Why do you have on those, like that?" Attic Keeper didn't look away from her paper and charcoal pencil, the quick scratching nose of the lead on thick paper, so pleasant and interesting to the Muses as well. They were sitting up now, watching her work. To get a sense of shadow, negative space. Most art, music, literature, acting is about revealing the negative space and letting the viewer do the detective work and seeing the positive space. Or rather, getting the viewer involved in the art so that the viewer experiences the negative space and thus knows more of what the reality is of the art itself in 3 dimensions. The artist doesn't define the reality, the viewer does. The artist's job is to provide options on how a viewer can arrive at a definition. "I never got that, really," said Bookie Muse, "as a concept. How can you produce something out of things that aren't really there? And that is what makes your art the art? Wearing sunglasses with one lens helps you do that?" asked Dance. "It's so I can have an interesting experience of light and shadow while I paint," said Attic Keeper dismissively. "Haven't you had your artists dance or act on stage with blindfolds on?" asked Attic Keeper a bit testily now. "It's about testing out what our body skills are as applied to our art form, which is the concept. Art is a very body thing. It's not really a concept thing at all." She was not used to company, and was growing more concerned by the minute of how she was going to pack off these Muses to some place that was not going to be evicted. "No," replied Dance. A slight edge was in his voice. "I never knew to do that," Artie Muse interrupted. "I haven't really known how to do that either." "Well, maybe that's a part of why you never got adopted," the Attic Keeper replied testily. She was concentrating on her work, after all. These Muses did not belong here in her attic. Then she sighed, set her pencil and paper and glasses down on her work table, gave Storm a massage behind the ears, and said, "Okay, first things first, what you need to know the most is how to observe things. Just get really good at observing things from all sorts of points of view, from being blindfolded to lying flat on your back, to walking barefoot, to people watching, to trying new flavors of foods. And then sketch them out. You can write them out too with words, what you observe, but it's always best to carry a sketchbook and a pencil with you and just doodle what you observe, and don't observe what everybody else is. Daydream. Do your own daydreaming. Make it your own and put it all in your sketchbook." "Haven't got any sketchbooks or pencils or any supplies." Artie winced, scowled, and shook his head. "The academy's shut down. Supply cupboard is bare." A silence fell over the little crowd, and as the fire minimized, the vacuous could be heard outside. much more pronouncedly. Attic Keeper got up, slid 2 more logs into the fireplace, and rustled them into the new warm flames with a bit of iron fence post. "Come over here, then." She motioned them to a far wall, where hung a long and wide ornamental rug, a deeply decorated tapestry, images of all kinds embedded into the weaving of the threads, telling stories up and down and left and right and in circles. She pulled it to one side and revealed a broadly expansive bookshelf cupboard system with all kinds of doors and drawers and shelves, topped over with things that made the Muses gasp with glee. Stacks and stacks of new, blank, ready-to-use sketchbooks. Delicious sketchbooks, with jars and jars filled with stylus pencils, new and ready to use, and that looked a little bit magical. Mounds of paints in tubes and jars, big bags of clay, jars of brushes and quill pens, tubes of glue and bottles of glitter filled the shelves to overflowing. But that wasn't it. They were pulsing and glowing and beguiling the Muses to reach out and grab them up, open up the first blank page, and fill it with ideas, drawings, doodles, and words. Delicious words. "Go ahead. These are observation books, sketchbooks. Go ahead, help yourself. I have to work now and get over this excruciating artist's block," Attic Keeper said, smiling just a little bit, gesturing them to partake. And that's what the Muses did, grabbed up several of the sketchbooks and the stylus pencils and opened them up and started to enter on pages all their images and words that they had been storing up inside through their ordeal. But something else, something unexpected, and that which to this day has remained unexplained. With every stroke and punctuation of the stylus pencils, a sound was offered to what appeared on the page. All kinds of soundscapes. Seabirds at an oceanside inn, foghorns, rain on a tin roof, baby birds waking up at sunrise, pebbles being poured out of a backpack onto a garden path, wind, giggles, phones ringing, snoring, pasta boiling on a pot, dried pasta spilling out onto the kitchen floor. And if you pressed it just right, the stylus would pour out color onto the paper. Small color, big color, mixed color, vibrant or vague, in thin and thick lines, and smudges and drips. What they would come to know as joyous fog had begun to emerge. Great billowing puffs of greens, blues, pinks, yellows, lavenders, all swirling around, coming right up out of the blank pages, poofing and filling the room with beautiful, entrancing colors, right out of the sketchbook as they applied their styluses and created this joyous fog, a melody of color, a zestry energy of infectious curiosity as the pages filled up and happy sounds of artistic work buzzed across the attic room. End of chapter 2.